So if you didn't see my last video, I was just playing Ghost of Tsushima. I had to stop. I didn't realize that I had to, like, trying to look for his name on adding. I didn't find him, sadly, but he might join this time. And I will be looking carefully at the comments to be sure. Now, I need to check if I have a specific setting on comments. Audio share. Wait, what? Advanced camera video settings? No. Yeah. So now every time I get a comment, it'll read it to me. What the frick? So this is when he started. I'm watching the video so I can know when he started doing it. He already sent me David Bedoya, I think. Dang. Just got bugged right there. Okay, so if you guys didn't know, since David doesn't know my name, and David doesn't know my name, my real name is Comment by Madden. There's 2 people watching my stream during this freaking moment.
Oh, wait, what?
But he didn't comment. He didn't comment.
What is a freaking archer?
David commented, but the other guy didn't.
I don't want to waste an arrow on him, though. Don't be anyone. Okay.
3. Those 4 people watching my freaking stream, that's insane. I've never gotten that much. I'm gonna be the 5th, obviously, because I'm watching it on my account and make sure.
I wanted to.
I can't believe there was 4 people watching, and then they all left, no matter what, like 15 seconds. I think they all watched the end of the stream.
I'm gonna have to freaking waste an arrow on this idiot. I'm gonna have to waste an arrow on this idiot. I missed.
Well, that missed that, buddy.
Hold to open. Alright.
3. What? My boy saying 3 in the freaking matter of 2 seconds? Oh, wait, I wasn't looking. How did he?
I'm gonna have to freaking waste an arrow on this idiot. I'm gonna have to waste an arrow on this idiot. I missed.
No. 3. Then someone leaves. He says the same thing and he says hello. No one else freaking on my stream. It's fine. 3, and then it seems like 5 comments, so I don't know when he sends the last. Only 1 minute left. He ended up leaving.
Is there anything in any of them? Or even if there isn't, I'm still gonna open them.
Now pause. I need a something. Comments to speech. Set settings equals language equals system. Enough broadcast settings and mouse setting. Okay, volume. Have it pretty high.
Maximum volume. Volume down. Volume down. Volume down. Normal. Low. Normal. High. Normal. Slow 1. Slow 2. Normal. Fast 1. Fast 2. Fast 1. Normal.
Yep. And then enable it. Okay. Right. Yep. And then let me check something. Okay, I think every time someone comments, it will, like, say to me. I'm not sure. He ended up leaving both of them. I think he joins back and sends 2 more messages.
way.
Because it said 5 messages. I ended the stream. Then... Oh... It said 5. Well, I don't know. That was insane. Wait a minute, what if I go to library? And then my videos, home, live, playlists. I have 5,000 like videos, holy crap. Okay, so now I'm just watching my stream. I'm gonna keep my stream at low volume just in case I have someone that joins. I could see. If someone does end up joining, please send a comment so I can know what your name is. And yeah. Joining day. Now the reason why I don't want to really do this is because this game is kind of getting on my nerves. But other than that, you can play all the cutscenes. That's cool. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. I think that's just a me. How am I supposed to know that?
There you go. Ellie's introduction. And this stuff is all shot out of sequence. So it's I don't know, maybe you guys can talk about the process of how you get into that state.
I'm trying to remember that. I just really like the fact that the first time you see Ellie, you see her knife first.
Right.
I just think that's
You see that
kind
she's
of
a
awesome.
fighter.
Yeah. I forgot that was the first time that you saw Ellie. That was the first scene. That just from the get-go, she's fighting.
Yeah, but it's not just she's fighting because she really cares for Marlene. That was kind of
Yeah.
the crux of this, is that you see these two characters really care for one another. And I love in such a short time you see between Marlene and Ellie, there's this connection that's so
Right.
important that has to carry through to the end of the game when Marlene shows up again.
Even like just the positioning of the two people. I mean, it's Joel and Tess versus Ellie and Marlene.
Just like, it's so interesting watching, right? Joel here doesn't even make eye contact with her. He doesn't even acknowledge her existence.
Right.
She's not crossing the line, too. Telling Joel to watch over her. Ellie.
Our first fight.
Here we go.
Bullshit!
Who's close with his brother, Tommy? Jan.
You guys?
I have no idea.
I don't have the time to write it.
I hope so. That's right.
For Joel, right? That's a hint. It's like, I don't want to be around this kid.
Right.
Like it's some subconscious part of him knows I could get hurt.
That was strange. Let's do this
I'm
one.
Neil Druckmann, creative director.
And I'm Troy Baker. I played Joel.
And I'm Ashley Johnson, and I play Ellie.
So first cinematic here. You'll see as we get to the end.
I think it's such an interesting thing to start off with, not only in the past, but also to start off basically.
Yeah, that's one of the things we were discussing as we're iterating on this opening sequence, because it used to be it was all seen through Joel's eyes. But then it became a lot more interesting to think of it as you're seeing it through Sarah's eyes, because Sarah is really kind of, the whole game is about this relationship between Joel and Ellie, but here Sarah is kind of embodies what their relationship is going to eventually become.
And that was probably one of the hardest roles to cast too, with Sarah. There were a lot of people that came in, and I love that this scene was, that was one of the audition scenes. And it was so amazing when Hannah came in that it just, what you're seeing right now, that was the chemistry. She was amazing. It's like Like a younger Dakota Fanning. Just there's an old soul behind those eyes.
Yeah, and she could turn it on and off between each take.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, she was crazy. She's amazing.
It's always a little awkward, right? You have a 12-year-old someone on the set, and you're doing this pretty dark stuff.
Especially with the way that we work too.
All right, let's hold off on some of the jokes today, guys.
You started helping out with the mortgage then.
Yeah, you wish.
And this piece of music, actually, we were struggling to find which piece to play here. And then Gustavo wrote this thing for the VGAs just to play before we showed the trailer, and right away I heard it, like, that's got to go in the opening. This is the theme, kind of like the relationship between Joel and his daughter that later becomes the theme between Joel and Ellie.
Hallican Drops,
Pelican Drops.
the name of the band, on her t-shirt. And where did you get that?
My daughter came up with that. My 2.5-year-old daughter named one of her dolls that. And we're searching for a name for a band. I'm like, I got a name for a band.
So this is gonna be the first time that I've ever. So this is gonna be the first time that I've ever seen this scene. This was one specifically that I really didn't want to. Once we did it, and when we first talked about doing this, in the very, very beginning, I knew this scene was gonna come, and it was. I told you, I was like, give me a heads up when this day comes, because it's not gonna be a good one.
Well, the thing with this scene, it's a super difficult scene to shoot. The first time we shot it, we did like at least 15 takes or something crazy like that. And then we thought we had it in the can, and
Well, I thought
well, no, we all thought. We thought we came back to work and we started putting it in, and for me there was just something that was, I felt like we could convey the same amount of emotion with less.
Yeah.
And it was a hard thing to tell Troy because everybody put so much into it, and it's like, we got to do it again.
Well, I remember that
We got to
day
come back to this.
when you came back and you told me that we have to do this again. Obviously, you know, you'll see why what we're talking about. But this is the defining moment for Joel. This is where he draws that line in the sand, where he has few moral lines left to cross. I'm so amazed with how well Hannah did. And
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult to watch just on the mocap stage. And we actually had people, after a few takes, leave the set. They're like, I can't watch this anymore, and they just took off. But from a story standpoint, it's so important to show just what the violence does and how it like rips apart this family.
well, then especially a lot of times in video games, you see blatant violence, but when you personify it and you put it on a face, especially that young face, and you see the devastation that just one life lost can do, and it's just, I mean, this was such a hard day, hard day for both of us. I mean, it was exhausting for her, it was exhausting for me.
So the opening credits, the thing with the opening, initially we didn't want to do opening credits, we didn't even have the idea for this, but the jump felt too sudden to go from Sarah dying to then 20 years later.
And making up.
We found that when people watch it in succession, they're not paying attention when we start introducing Tess in the world because they're still recovering from Sarah dying. So we're like, okay, well, let's have this opening sequence that can kind of help bridge the gap. And just had the idea of just seeing this time-lapse video of fungus growing, because so much of the disease and the outbreak is based on this cordyceps fungus that's spread through spores. So we contacted a group at Sony San Diego who did this whole opening sequence for us, and they actually got these fungal kits where they grew fungus like in their bathrooms and filmed this over like days to produce this thing.
So everything you're seeing is actually, it's real, it's not CG, it's not.
This whole journey is like a dreamlike state, and you constantly see people waking up. And you see this multiple chime with Joel, and it's as if he's like remembering the past and always having these bad dreams throughout the game.
That was always something that we had to keep in mind when we did this scene, because we shot this before we shot Sarah dying scene. So it's kind of like we knew that those were going to be in one way or another kind of butted up against each other. But this is such a great thing. Again, this was in the audition thing that we did when we were trying to find Tess. And when Annie walked in, it was just like, she walked in as Tess. We saw a lot of different people for that. And this was just such a great, because the relationship you see from going from Sarah and Joel to now Joel and Tess, it's just, I don't know, you see everything, like the house that he was in before was nicer. he looked nicer, and it's not just the years that passed, but those years that passed out of
This also
mankind.
gets into something interesting for me as a writer, which is you have a certain notion of characters or how you want the structure to be, and then once it's interpreted through actors like Troy, it changes. Like I've always imagined as Joel doesn't really care for Tess. He's completely shut down, and Troy treated it differently, which is I think he really cares for Tess, even though he might not show it, and we just kind of embraced it. And you kind of see that later when Tess gets infected. That wasn't how the scene was originally envisioned, that Joel has such a reaction, but it became a lot more interesting to own that.
Well, and also how much this relationship changed over, I mean, time and different writing iterations and just conversations that we had about this, even, you know, within just in the last month or so, we've had conversations about this. It's like, what is their relationship? Because we never define it. I think anybody else would put it on the nose, they're lovers or whatever. There was one note that you gave, it's like, let's, for one specific take, and it said, let's just assume that there was a fight last night over what, we don't know. This is that moment afterwards. It was like this awkward tension between the two of us. But there's no like loving embrace, there's no kiss that Joel and Tess have. It's just such an interesting relationship.
And the challenge was to try to, how much can we convey just through nonverbal interaction?
Right.
Our first torture scene.
And it's with the lovely Robin Atkin Downs, which I was just joking and saying that it's not a Naughty Dog game if Robin isn't getting the shit kicked out of him.
He's been in every game since Uncharted 1.
We just put him through the ringer on this one. Poor guy.
It was important to show just how far Joel has come, from the father you see in the opening sequence to here is a man that is willing to torture someone to just get
but it's
what
so
is essentially
interesting.
money in this world.
Right, but it's interesting because he's like that brutal enforcer. It's kind of like that scene in LA Confidential where he's Russell Crowe. She's running the show. She's the dominating one, and I'm just brought in to be the
She's
muscle.
the brains of the operation.
Yeah, clearly.
Stop! What you're squirming.
That's all Robin's expressions too. It's so great. He did such a great job with the facial.
Yeah, it's important to note also all the facial is hand animated. We don't use any facial mocap. We find that we get better results with our animators.
And it almost becomes one-to-one. Yeah. It's just here it is. Wait for it.
Give me a week. You know, I might have done that if you hadn't tried to fucking kill me.
Vote of hesitation. It's gonna cost you.
We re-edited that. We used to show the break, and actually it was less brutal than when we didn't show it.
When you didn't show it?
Yeah, when it's left to your imagination, it's a lot worse.
Yeah, but just you can see the way that his arms positioned. But yeah, you're right. This is so revealing, not only about the relationship, but about, again, who Joel has become. To go from a father who just cares about keeping his nose down and keeping the job and playing by the rules, to being a guy who could just literally break some guy's arm over guns. It's just crazy.
Come on. Fuck those fireflies.
She loved doing that scene too. And he loved that. She tried not to smile every time. And I love it's just business as usual. It's back to it. It's like, all right, so now what?
We're about to meet a very talented Merle Dandridge.
Oh, Merle. Now, here's something interesting about this. Again, going back to the audition, that process. We saw a bunch of different girls, even girls that we had originally seen for Tess, we brought back to see.
They're all really
Marlene.
good.
They're fantastic.
And then Merle came in and just,
And
there
I
was
wasn't,
no question.
And I wasn't there for that. And
Ashley can chime in.
Or no.
Ashley was part of the audition for Merle.
When she came in, it was hands down.
Yeah.
It's like, that's Marlene, come on.
It's funny that all three of us knew like right away that yeah, she needs to.
you've got to see her. I want you to
Yeah,
see her.
we had callbacks and she was busy, she couldn't make it, and we had a special day of callbacks just to bring her in because we felt really confident that she could do it.
I felt like she was the only one who didn't play it all either super tough.
Or Street, yeah.
Yeah, she kind of had
Yeah,
the
she
perfect
really straddled that
combination.
line.
It was so great. But we did that first scene in the audition, literally first take, first scene, and she exits. It's at the very end of the game, and she turns around, she exits, and I turned around, look at Neil, I was like, I just mouthed, "Are you kidding me?" It's like,
And I
was
mouthed,
done.
I told you so.
Yeah, she did such a great job. This is another kind of thing that I think is interesting that's happening in video games, where we see two really strong women characters, female characters that aren't being over-sexualized. They're just strong women.
you go. Ellie's introduction.
Yep.
And this stuff is all shot out of sequence. So it's, I don't know, maybe you guys can talk about the process of how you get into that state.
I'm trying to remember that. I just really like the fact that the first time you see Ellie, you see her knife first.
Right.
I just think that's
You see that
kind
she's
of
a
awesome.
fighter.
Yeah. I forgot that that was the first time that you saw Ellie. That was the first scene. That just from the get-go, she's fighting.
Yeah, but it's not just that she's fighting because she really cares for Marlene. That was kind of
Yeah.
the crux of this, is that you see these two characters really care for one another. And I love in such a short time you see between Marlene and Ellie, there's this connection that's so
Right.
important because that has to carry through to the end of the game when Marlene shows up again.
Well, even like just the positioning of the two people. I mean, it's Joel and Tess versus Ellie and Marlene.
And just like, it's so interesting watching, right, Joel here doesn't even make eye contact with her. He doesn't even acknowledge her existence.
Right.
She's not crossing to that party too. Ellie, Joel, watch over. Oh shit, I'm not Ellie.
Our first fight.
Here we go.
Bullshit!
He was close with his brother Tommy. Said if I was ever in a jam, I could rely on him.
Is that before or after?
Just reminding the player, like this guy you saw in the beginning, Joel's brother, he's changed too and he's been involved.
Yeah.
Just get hints of,
There's a falling out between the two of them.
it's just as you go on, you're starting to fill in that 20-year gap.
Which is pretty true to your writing too, because I'm like, so what happened here? It's always, what do you think?
What do you think happened? Because I have no idea.
I don't have the time to write it.
You stay close.
For Joel, right, that's a hint. It's like, I don't want to be around this kid.
Right.
Because some subconscious part of him knows I could get hurt.
Is it?
First moment alone.
What does Joel do?
Time for bed.
Takes it.
I'm tired.
What are you doing?
Killing time.
I do really like this scene.
What am I supposed to
I'm sure you will figure that out.
It's a great moment.
It's another one of those moments too where it's like, it just feels like Joel is just always exhausted. Like this world is bearing down on him.
But I love that moment too, where she points out the watch, where we get to establish that watch that.
Yeah. And that's
Sarah
something
gave
we didn't have in the beginning. That's actually something we inserted after the fact. Not for this scene, but there's another scene.
But I also love, like you said, the kind of the juxtaposition between Joel and Ellie, to where Joel's just, like you said, weary and exhausted, and you have this total opposite, almost antithetical thing of like this naivete and this childlike behavior that's wanting to explore.
And
it
here
shows up in this.
she's talking about having bad dreams, like the idea that they are both carrying this baggage with them. And it's how they first connect.
Look how dark it is. Can't be any worse up there.
Hmm.
Can it?
I'll never be Firefly's one with you.
Hey. Sorry it took so long. How's Marlene?
What a great moment. He finally addresses her, finally connects on that level, and that moment's interrupted.
Well, it's also the first time kind of Ellie saying, I'm scared, right? That was...
Yep, definitely not infected. Definitely. I mean, she's not, but whatever.
Turn around. On your knees.
It's such an interesting thing that we're like 2 hours into the game, and we're still the enemy, if there is one. Or just other humans, just other people that are on other sides of the law, but there's no infected, there's no clickers, there's no anything.
Look the other way. Make this worth your while.
Shut up. What's DTA?
Couple minutes.
Love the attention to detail, the rain falling off their faces. She's the one that strikes out first.
Then it's interesting how Joel instinctively, when a gun is pointed at Ellie, he acts.
Yeah.
Again, there's something subconscious that he feels like he has to protect this girl. He doesn't realize it yet.
Here it is.
Marlene set us up.
So this is starting to build up that conflict between Joel and Tess.
Yeah.
And this is something we struggled in the story for a long time, is like, how do we motivate this guy that shouldn't really want to do this mission? How do we get him to take on this mission to carry Ellie across the country? And it was through Tess. So if we get Tess to really buy into this thing, and then we, you know, Tess gets infected, then she can convince Joel to take this on. At least initially, at least until we can spend long enough time with Ellie so they can connect.
Yeah.
And then it becomes about something else.
I'll also say, Ashley, when we were doing this, the way that you conveyed fear, because it's a very scary situation that you're in, because you felt like your back was against the wall.
Thanks.
And this is where we really, okay, this is where we kind of show you the difference between Joel and Tess.
Yeah, because you're starting to see Tess really kind of buy into this. And you see some hope.
Well, the thing I like about your performance here is you really get the sense of the conversation she's had with Marlene and the struggles she's been going through the past 3 weeks.
She said that they have no more quarantine zone. With doctors, they're still trying to find a cure.
It's where you see just deep inside how much Tess is desperate for any kind of redemption.
Whatever happened to me is that...
Remember, Ashley, we were talking about the scene and the idea that Ellie's not sure she believes in this thing. She feels this whole thing is insane and ridiculous.
I remember that.
I believe the direction I gave you was like, imagine you're giving yourself a compliment.
Yeah. If you as a person in real life found out you were the cure for mankind.
I'm kind of awesome.
Yeah, you
apparently,
wouldn't.
so
And
I am the
especially
Messiah.
in that 3 weeks, you wouldn't, it'd be hard to own that.
Watch your step as you're going.
Little brat.
I love the dynamics of this scene where it's like Tess has this secret, right? She's bitten. She's not telling Joel or anybody yet. Joel here for the first, again, he's connected. He can't help it. It's the first time he's like saying something semi-nice to Ellie.
But there's still this layer of cynicism behind it.
He gets taken away by that childlike wonder. And this is something we added after the fact, the watch. The watch wasn't, we didn't have the watch at the time.
Yeah.
And Joel was just crossing his arms, and I asked the animators to like, oh, could you just flip his wrist and have him look at the watch?
Yeah.
This moment is reminding him of Sarah.
I love that. It's almost a warning from Tess to Joel, like kind of like last words.
It's like this determination, and you're not sure why. What's
Yeah.
different now, Tess? Tess's desperation.
What happens now?
I love, like, and it totally comes in words or anything, just through the expressions on Joel's face, which is, I've indulged you enough, Tess.
She never said. She only mentioned that it was someplace out west.
What are we doing here? This is
Yeah, that calm, pacifying, trying to talk some sense into you.
Ow!
this.
Really?
Right.
Guess what? We're shitty people, Joel. It's been that way for a long
I
time.
love the fact that her character, she knows she's gonna die any minute, but she's still holding on to so much hope.
Yeah.
That, well, she's different.
Right.
Look at her bite. The world could still change.
And it's kind of this theme that, like, this idea of, I've done all this crappy things, but it's all okay if I could do this one thing right.
Right.
And then that kind of moves over to Ellie. And we see that theme later when Ellie, like, talks about, it can't be for nothing.
I gotta point this out. Everybody else, because this was a part of the audition scene too, everyone else did that "don't touch me." They screamed it out, and I love the way she did that, where it was like that first "don't touch me. And it's
Yeah.
just that realization. And I love the fact that Ellie's the one that figures it out, not Joel.
Oh, Christ.
And again, the back and forth Annie's doing between this freaking badass to such vulnerability and constantly jumping back and forth, and she brought that every take. We're all like, because every take she's like full on crying by the end of it.
She's incredible. You're right. She's such a badass, but she was so vulnerable at the same time. It's just such a
Shows
hard
two
thing to
sides of the
play.
same strength, dude.
God, I'm such an Annie fan.
So you get her to Tommy's.
I remember you coming out of a take, and Troy's like, look at me, he's like, you don't understand. You're not right there staring into her eyes.
Yeah.
I can buy you some time.
You want us to just leave you here?
Yes.
There's no way.
This moment where like Joel's like in denial, is like, there's something I could do. Not even understanding, like, she's gone. She's already gone. There's nothing you could do right now.
And also, she is just laser-eyed on Joel doing that, even though she's talking to Ellie.
Just go.
Tess has to snap him out of it. It's like, you know what you have to do. And I believe this is the first time Joel refers to Ellie by her name. I don't think anywhere else in the game he does that. Before. And again, it was important to stay. We stay with Tess, just showing. Here's her emotions finally coming through when Joel is gone. Like I don't remember if we talked about this, but Ellie has just this clearly a problem with authority, where somebody's telling her what to do.
Yeah, for sure. I think that also, I have a problem with authority. So that came out a little bit in Ellie.
Here's how this thing's gonna play out. You don't bring up this.
Yeah, that's so. Joel knows what he needs to do to survive, which is just let go. He needs to let go fast of these things, or they will.
Don't tell anybody about your condition.
That's great. I love that he refers to that as her
Condition.
You very acknowledge. Just
We're
still
trying to search for the term for it. You being the whole cure for humanity thing.
I love that he says good, but the subtext is clearly like, all right, good enough.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna get out of this kid.
Good chance he could get us a car.
Okay.
Let's get a move on.
Hey, it's Bill.
Lovely Earl Brown.
Whoop whoop.
I remember you were kind of geeking out when you auditioned with him.
I was. We saw like a lot of people for Bill, and there was a lot of like stars that came in. I was really surprised. But then when he walked in, I was like, holy crap, it's Dan Dougherty from Deadwood.
He's amazing to work with. I've worked with him before a while ago, and I just love working with him.
You actually hit him in the scene in the face.
That's right.
I did.
Right there, and we kept it. And he kept going, what a trooper.
That's one of my favorite things, is when he goes, am I
Yeah.
dead?
He was sick that day.
Yeah.
He was like getting over a cold.
I did hit him, and I felt so bad because it was a complete accident. I think I didn't realize my swing was going a lot
That was
faster
the
than I thought it
first
was.
of many people that you hit during the shoot of this project.
Yeah.
Getting
it
into
happens.
character. Well, I also love this business that he's doing here too. That was something that he completely made up. He's like, working on the sword. And
Again, I love this moment, this paternal thing. Like, just shut up, kid. I need to handle this.
He's always a dad.
Actually. Don't matter because I don't have a car that works. There is one in this town. Parts. There are parts in this town. Meaning that you could fix one up.
gives in.
And I love just taking that time, take that pause.
It's on the other side of town. And you help me go gather it, and maybe we can put something together that runs. But after this, I owe you nothing.
That's fine. A couple days from now, we'll probably be dead anyway.
And it's like opening handcuffs, but again, I see it as this almost tender moment between Joel and Ellie.
Right on my ass.
And
Another great Ellie line. Smart ass.
The rehearsal for all these scenes. So we would shoot these things in chunks. So we'd bring like Earl in and Ashley and Troy and just shoot the whole Bill sequence. And talking to Bill, and he's about to talk about a partner that he's had. We've talked. There was a question I brought up. Is like, what kind of partner is this? And Earl asked, "Is Bill gay?" And I said, "Well, he could be. I mean, it's really up to you."
Well, no, you gave the standard response of, what do you think?
Because I really want him to own it. I thought he was when I wrote the part, but I really wanted the actor to own it, and he did. He made that decision to make him a gay character. And again, it's not something we ever explicitly say, except for the magazine that Ellie steals.
Right. But again, instead of making that a point, something is just a cute little piece of exposition.
And from a narrative structural standpoint, what Bill is there to show is, here's what happens when you survive on your own in this world. It's like you're alone, miserable, and a little bit crazy, and it's what could happen to Joel if he keeps going down this path of just doing whatever he takes to survive. And also, Bill is there to kind of give Joel the warning, is like, you go down this world, you care for people, you will get hurt.
Hey! What I said to you when we walked down the steps?
And that's where Ellie has stolen a bunch of Bill's stuff.
I love that flips him off.
You keep babysitting long enough, and
I
eventually...
love that line of fixing the stupid pile. Because I feel like that's something a kid would say when you're trying to cover, when you're it's
Right.
nothing specific.
I was just stealing all your stuff.
Fix the pencils over here.
Oh, this is the one where we abused Troy. I was like, you have to fly face first into the ground. And he's like, but I should roll. No, fly face first into the ground.
It was like, well, if I roll this way, then actually, and they're like, it looks too ninja when you can't do it. So I literally just had to eat shit time after time again. It's like seeing stars. It was great.
Please tell me you're done!
Yeah, you guys are acting against nothing. There's nothing there.
That's something we always had to remember was being attention back.
Left too that he closes a glass door like that's gonna do much.
Yeah, right.
So that worked out well.
Oh, the thing I love here is that that Bill constantly brings up Tess, not knowing that
Right.
Tess is dead because Joel doesn't want to talk about it.
Right.
But here it gets to Joel. And this is something that you guys actually just improvised. That wasn't in the script, this big fight that happens here. It was much more low-key in the script.
Yeah, once he brings up Tess, that was something we kind of keyed in on.
What, you know this guy or something? Frank. Who the hell's Frank? He was my partner.
They're both kind of lying to each other. If you think about the previous scene, right? He mentioned his partner, but almost like, I didn't care about him, I let him go, and you realize that's not the truth at all.
Right.
He really cared for this guy, and this guy probably left him.
Yeah.
I love how clinical he is about this. But that look on his face says everything.
Well, that turn too that Earl did, but he realizes Joel is looking at him and he's being vulnerable right now, and he puts that mask back on.
Yeah.
And I remember like seeing that moment from Earl, I was like, yeah, we kissed the right guy.
And then that turn right there. Which again is kind of why Bill, what purpose Bill serves in the story, is to show that having those moments of emotion. There's nothing he feels, there's nothing but weakness.
Get out. Get out.
I love it.
That
Get
relationship
out.
between the two of you
I
was
love
so
it.
good. That's what was great about the cast, is constantly having to switch from these really serious, dramatic vulnerabilities to playing tough, right? Because that's what you kind of have to do in this world, is let your humanity come out, but then learn when to shut that off to survive. Also, you're seeing it's very subtle here, but you're starting to see this change in Joel, where he's giving Ellie more and more responsibility. He's trusting her. Instead of just saying, stay out of my way, like, I need your help.
This is a good point that, you know, in case people weren't aware of the process. I mean, everyone at this stage made such great sets, even though it's kind of rudimentary, but they actually built a truck for us, and we used that truck so many times. But I think that this was the last scene that we shot with Earl.
Yeah, and rehearsals, I would try to give you guys as much of concept art and videos that we had,
Right.
so you can imagine the space, because you have nothing there to act on, except each other.
That's right.
You guys have each other.
It's true.
And I love this exchange between Bill and Joel too, because you know it's Joel trying to kind of apologize for an awkward situation and trying to show some sensitivity to him. And Bill just completely glosses over it.
The thing with Joel that I kind of admire, like, he can't come up with the right words. He can never come up with the right words. I was like, it's like a half sentence. It's like, so, yeah.
And Bill kind of finishes that for him, but it's
Which really helps my writing. This theme comes in here because to show Joel's now alone with Ellie, but the relationship has changed. This is starting to become that theme we heard in the beginning with Sarah. Now we're getting into the first scene we ever shot, and this is your guys' edition right here.
yeah.
Yeah, this was the first audition scene when I came in, when I read for you guys, along with another scene that I don't know if it's in the game or it
It's not in
probably
the game.
changed a
It's
little bit.
like the scene with the Walkman.
Yeah, the scene with the Walkman.
There's a scene. There was the scene kind of like it, but it's pretty different.
Bag of bills. I mean, all this stuff was just lying there.
What else did you get?
Well, and I especially love this because, especially at this point, we had no idea who Bill really was.
How many times did we come back to the scene? Like at least 3 times.
Yeah, at least 3 times. I love what she says. I was like, hey, you know who this is? And the different versions of songs that we ran through with this too is great.
I'm sure your friend will be missing this tonight.
That's the guy on the cover is John Sweeney, one of our concept artists.
That's awesome. Is the centerfold also his penis?
You should have that unlockable. You could see what she's looking at.
Yeah. Get your subscription to Bearskin Magazine today.
And the awkwardness of that moment.
But it's also such a great moment of levity between the two of them.
That's kind of a way of her complimenting him. We're trying to bond with him.
Yeah.
And it's something I was very conscious of when writing this stuff. It was like, this is making me uncomfortable here on the page. I have to leave it as is.
Yeah. That's your litmus test.
Yeah.
I love that. Not even tired. Cut to passed out. This is the first scene, because it was part of that reveal trailer. It was the first scene that I ever saw put together fully, and it was just absolutely blown away how good it looked. It was the first time I'd actually seen, real flesh and bone put on Joel and Ellie.
And the yawn we added after the fact.
I remember
Yeah.
that.
Because we were like, oh, she doesn't have a yawn. She should have a yawn when she wakes up. And then you were yawning on the set, and we're all yawning because it's contagious.
I know, just watching that, I just yawned. I tried to be quiet about it.
I love that this moment of silence and kind of peacefulness is broken up by this.
So Joel knows this trick. He knows it because he's done this before.
Right. Poor John Bentley. And I love again how that music is playing not as a score but coming from the car. It's just great.
I believe that was Ruben that we hit. And
Yeah,
had
that
him
was
fly,
Ruben.
Fly off the truck like that. This was also the first really dramatic scene we shot, and it became kind of the touchstone for how the characters should look when they're pushed.
It's so interesting when she's, you know, again, it's this moment of vulnerability where she says, I feel sick, and Joel's, again, being very didactic and pushing her away. She stands up for herself. This is the first time she stood up for herself. And I love that line, you know, it's either him or me, come back to bed.
He can't do it. He can't admit that she saved his life. So this is, in the story, the first time Joel really is trusting her and seeing her as pretty much an equal. He has to rely on her to survive on this one.
This is one of the first cinematics that we saw too. We just, it's still one of our favorites. We keep coming back to it and laughing because I love this exchange between the two of them.
You stay here.
Fucking chance if you let me help.
I am. See, you're running a gun.
I sort of shot a rifle before.
He's like, shit, rats, that's it? Fuck.
I love that one. Oh shit, here's what we gotta work with.
We usually avoid these kind of cameras that rotate around something that are trying to do too much, but it felt like this moment kind of needed it. It's a weird parent-kid moment.
Yeah.
He's teaching her how to shoot to kill.
Another round in here quick. Listen to me. I get in trouble.
It was a really nice, when I watched like Ellie's performance, this balance between she's trying to be a hard ass, but you could see in her eyes she's kind of terrified of the situation.
Yeah.
But even in this, there's almost a little bit of excitement there too. Either whether it's about the reality of her killing isn't real, or if it's just, I have an opportunity to make Joel proud.
Opening up, opening up.
Such an interesting look on your face here. It's almost like I did good, but then you feel horrified by it. So interesting.
Even though Ellie's used to killing, used to seeing this stuff in this world, it was still important to show this is having an effect on her, right? You're going to see that kind of carry through throughout the game.
Well, it also kind of carries over into this moment as well, too, because I realized what I just put her through. I love the way that I took that away from her. It's like almost gingerly. It's like, give me that.
It's like you can't really compliment it because
You did
just what
good.
you
Yeah,
had
there's
to
no
do.
pat on the back. But then I turn around and I give her this. And it's like, like you said, there's a sadness to it.
Sad that in this world, these are the things that you have to bond over. Like, here's your gun.
And that's the reward.
Yeah.
That not of understanding.
Brandon and Najee.
There you go. Brandon, I think, had the hardest audition of anyone.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because I literally almost took off his head. Not by Ruben Langdon, who can punch way better than I can.
Leave him alone.
Najee too, when he came in red for Sam, that had that. Just this kid that's kind of terrified to live in this world.
Yeah.
These two characters are really showing, they're kind of a mirror of Joel and Ellie's relationship. And it's another warning for Joel, like this whole arc for Henry and Sam. What's going to happen if you stick with this girl? You're going to go through what these two characters are going to eventually end up.
I do like that Sam is a character that seems genuinely scared, because a lot of the other characters can tend to be a little bit more badassy.
Right.
And he's young and he's scared. I
Yes.
love that.
To me, it also comes across very sullen. Like there's like just a little glimmer of hope and joy, but it's almost like anytime there is a moment that, then Henry kind of takes that away from him.
It also gives Ellie an opportunity to play a mentor of sorts for him.
Yeah.
Be safer in the chat there.
Take us there.
Welcome to my office.
One thing that I think made Brandon such a great choice for this, and the right choice for this, is this scene about how much he owned it, and the pride that he had in showing off this wonderful camp that they had made for themselves, and kind of like trying to impress Joel, and Joel just come, very nonplussed about the whole thing. Like, oh, good for you, you've done this.
Relax.
Well, the interesting thing, the way I read it is like Joel is impressed, but he's not. He's trying not to show it. He's trying to still test this kid. There's a lot of he sees himself in Henry.
Yeah. Very, very much so. I remember going back and forth about this, because...
Oh yeah, because layout changed. Because initially they were going to go through the camp at night, and then we had to change the layout, so we had to go in and record these lines.
Well, there's something on the reverse that it doesn't really matter, but when we shot this, the entire time that he was laying out this plan, I was just looking at him. So it's like, I really care about your plan, kid. I care more about you. It's kind of like poker. You don't play the cards, you play the man.
And one of those fleeting moments where kids can be kids.
She doesn't seem bothered by all this.
It's a powerful line. Joel completely just dismisses it. You guys were actually doing that in the background while we were doing this scene. It was so great. It wasn't like shot separately.
I know, we were just fooling around. You guys like, shut up!
Seems like a lot of people putting their stock on the Fireflies.
Yeah, maybe we should get to that.
You don't know
I love this standoff, even though it's a sit-off almost between the two of them, where Joel's just pushing him for information just to see where this kid's grounded. That nod.
And the threat being so subtle, but it's there.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, again, that Brandon did with this that everybody else didn't do. They kind of really got in Joel's face, and he didn't. He didn't posture himself that much. It was just like, I'll take care of mine, you take care of yours. And also that he doesn't correct him about your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Joel doesn't correct him. She's not my daughter.
You want to join us? It goes down tonight.
I guess we best rest up.
And I guess that's the most Joel's going to give him.
Yeah. That's all Henry needs. Joel.
Alright, I'm gonna go to my mom for some food, alright? Back.
Welcome to my office.
One thing that I think made Brandon such a great choice for this, and the right choice for this, is this scene about how much he owned it, and the pride that he had in showing off this wonderful camp that they had made for themselves, and kind of like trying to impress Joel, and Joel just come, very nonplussed about the whole thing. He's like, oh, good for you, you've done this.
Relax. We're safe.
Well, the interesting thing, the way I read it is like Joel is impressed, but he's not. He's trying not to show it. He's trying to still test this kid. There's a lot of he sees himself in Henry.
Yeah. Very, very much so. This is, I remember going back and forth about this because
Oh yeah, because layout changed. Because initially they were going to go through the camp
Right.
at night, and then we had to change the layout, so we had to go in and re-record these lines.
well, there's something on the reverse that it doesn't really matter, but when we shot this, the entire time that he was laying out this plan, I was just looking at him. So it's like, I really care about your plan, kid. I care more about you. It's kind of like poker. You don't play the cards, you play the man.
Yeah, one of those fleeting moments where kids can be kids.
She doesn't seem bothered by all this.
Such a powerful line. And Joel completely just dismisses it. You guys were actually doing that in the background while we were doing this scene. This was so great. It wasn't like shot separately.
I know, we were just fooling around. You guys like, shut up.
It just seems like there's a lot of people putting their stock on the Fireflies these days.
Yeah, maybe there's a reason for that.
You don't know.
I love this standoff, even though it's a sit-off almost between the two of them, where Joel's just pushing him for information just to see where this kid's grounded. That nod.
Yeah, the threat being so subtle, but it's there.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, again, that Brandon did with this that everybody else didn't do. They kind of really got in Joel's face, and he didn't posture himself that much. It was just like, I'll take care of mine, you take care of yours. And also that he doesn't correct him about your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Joel doesn't correct him. She's not my daughter.
Girl, you want to join us? It goes down tonight.
I guess we best rest up.
And I guess that's the most Joel's going to give him.
Yeah. That's all Henry needs. Joel sleeping again. These were my favorite scenes where I just got to sleep.
Yeah, the idea of these two pairs that are coming together.
God, they're such great brothers. Brandon and Najee did such a great job together.
How many bullets do you have left?
I just remember it was funny because jumping off of this bridge, there's just
a rope?
a line of tape, and then you have to like jump off of it.
Because we were both stepping over it at first. They're like, no, this is like 50 feet down.
I was like, oh, so we got to do a whole thing.
It looks ridiculous what we're doing. It's like, ah, with our arms above our head.
I know.
And this part where you're in the water, we had you on a cart.
That's right. And they
we
were like
just pushed
wheeling
you
around.
across
Yeah.
mocap stage.
It was actually pretty violent being on that.
It was.
It was pretty scary. This was part of the audition scene that Brandon did that really just kind of helped us realize we had the right Henry. Back to the salesman, it's like, hey, buddy, everything's okay. Everything's
I know.
all right.
I really like that about his character, that he's kind of a salesman.
You know, Sam's the one who spotted you. You guys are taking quite a bit of water.
What's wrong with you? Henry! Get back, son!
Hey. He's pissed, but he's not going to do anything.
You sure about that? Stop!
He's confident. He knows he can calm you down, but he needs Sam to stay out of the way.
Right, just in case.
Yeah.
If you did, coming back for you, you're putting him at risk. Stay back.
I think there's already the change there. Joel knows it's true.
Yeah.
Joel wouldn't have come back for him.
And even when we were shooting this too, I mean, you really get into that moment, and every time that I felt that hand on my shoulder, it's almost like that Hulk moment where you realize, oh, I felt bad for letting you see that part of me, because so far I really haven't, in these moments, let that demon out. I've done what I've had to do, but this is just cold-blooded murder I'm about to do.
The thing with Henry, which Brandon really brought to it, which is making light of everything for Sam. Everything is done for Sam.
Right.
I think he really is intimidated. He is scared in the situation, but he's making light of it so Sam isn't as scared as he is.
Because the second that Sam sees that he's scared, innocently scared. Silver lining kid.
This is the longest
Short
cinematic
scene
in the game. I had to fit that in there. Quit this place since we had it in the first trailer.
I can't quit you.
I remember when we first, the very, very beginning of this, when we like did the first table read through this or anything, and we talked about, I asked if there was going to be a moment of just a light shining through in this darkness, and we talked about this scene, and at that point it was just really kind of just real easy brushstrokes of what it was going to be, and it really came into fruition and became this
well, all the characters here have their guard down. It's kind of unique because usually somebody's lying or somebody's hiding something.
Right.
And here's like, everybody has their guard down.
And they're just talking about motorcycles. And you were really giving too on this. We spent a lot of time on this, and there was this one scene where you just kind of let me ramble about, you know, to where we really feel like we're coming midway into a conversation. I don't remember what was said, but it was just this cool moment.
You went more into the details of like with Tommy and where you went and the States and all that stuff. I think that really helped kind of make this, the following takes much more natural.
Right, without all the rest of that stuff, the preamble being there. But I love the turn that he gives right here. It's like the kids have gone to bed now, and we can just talk like adults.
Animation and lighting, right? If you don't capture these looks in the eyes, this scene doesn't work.
Right. The thing that I love about this is that he's set up a little office for himself, kind of like what Henry did. You know, it's this, I'm being official, trying to be a grown-up. He's still a kid, and we see it in this moment.
I really enjoyed working with Brandon and Najee. Just having them on set was so much fun. They're such
Najee
good
especially,
dudes.
like
Najee's hilarious.
We're doing this crazy scene, and we like cut, and then he's like just starting dancing or
singing whatever, you know, YouTube hot song at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, song bombing us all day.
They were so much fun. I just adore them too.
Is everything all right?
You got an opportunity to put so much of you into Ellie.
That's just because I can't write, so just listen to Ashley talk, and then like, oh, that's a good line.
That's giving me way too much credit.
It's like putting up the defense, making joke of it, as Ellie does.
Yeah.
And then seeing when she needs to, because that's the only way she's going to cheer him up. She's going to open up to him.
And also, she kind of throws out that bone, like, you know, scorpions are pretty creepy. That's not what I want to talk about.
Being by myself?
Which again, all this stuff she's saying here plays into what happens later when she finds out Joel's trying to give her up. He's giving her away to Tommy.
Yeah.
Those things out there. What if the
And it's kind of the same thing we're seeing with Tess, to where she was, again, she knows what's going on, he knows what's going on, but it's looking externally for some kind of either comfort or hope or answer or something. And then they just always come up empty.
I guess one thing I'm just thinking about now, which is all the stuff Sam is going through because he's bitten, is probably the stuff Ellie went through when she was first bitten, because she thought she was going to turn. And it just happens that she was immune. But so that's what she kind of, all these realizations she's had.
I go back and forth. I mean, I'd like to believe it.
It's a powerful thing for essentially.
It's kind of sad because that's not what Sam wants to hear. He
Right.
wants to hear that it's all going to be all right.
Right.
But
Death is terrible. It's a horrible, painful process, and you're all alone. You know.
There. If he doesn't know about it, can't take it away. All right.
This did make me sad because, you know, he spent that whole night alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, Henry didn't go back in there.
I let him sleep in, just like.
Yeah, let him sleep in.
Oh.
And that was the last conversation he had. And that always made me so sad after I read that. So I was like, oh.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. And what would have happened if Henry had gone in there? I mean, the fact that Henry wasn't there, I mean, plays into, you know, the culmination of this scene where he's just racked with guilt.
I mean, one thing we're very conscious of when putting the story together is we would have these really kind of dramatic moments that change the characters significantly, and then we would cut to some more time in the future.
Yeah.
And you'll So you don't get to see right afterwards what happened to her, and then you get hints of how this affected the relationship, which is what you get into the next gameplay sequence. And this whole thing is, it's a huge change in Joel here, because now he sees, this is what's going to happen to me. The same thing that's happening to Henry right now is what would happen to me if I'm going to keep going and let Ellie get hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's going to, after this moment, he makes the choice, like, I need to give her to Tommy.
I have no idea what that would do to a person to actually see that, to have to do that.
Yeah, and I remember talking with Brandon about this when he's saying it's all your fault. He's not talking to Joel, he's talking to himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that's cool with this piece, Gustavo's music, is that you're carrying that weight. You're carrying the weight of that emotion of everything just happened onto the next scene, which even though they might not be thinking about Henry and Sam right this moment, but it's just that feeling is lingering going forward.
I own that shirt. I still think we should sell off our mocap suits for charity.
Unwashed.
Jeffrey Pierce. Ashley Scott. Sorry, Ashley Hart.
Oh, yes.
Ashley Hart. She was married.
We didn't know the place was occupied. We're just trying to make our way through.
Through to where?
You're all right.
But you know these people?
Know him. He's my
The
goddamn
chemistry was so good between
The two of
you
them.
and Jeffrey.
It was amazing how well, and I mean, Jeffrey's just a few years older than me, but it was interesting playing the older brother to him. And yeah, we felt like brothers immediately. It was crazy.
Oh, well, Jeffrey came, I mean, we almost cast Jeffrey
Yeah.
as Joel. And then once, like, months later, we needed to cast Tommy. I was like, oh,
Well,
what's Jeffrey Pierce doing? That's
Not blowing my head off.
Would have been embarrassing, considering you're my brother-in-law.
And Ashley Scott, she came really close to being cast as Tess. And
Yeah.
when we needed Maria, I was like, oh,
we
Ashley
got the
Scott.
perfect person.
There were no auditions for these roles.
I love this awkward setup of this is how he meets his sister-in-law. When he meets
Yeah.
Jeffrey, you know, or Tommy's wife.
Story.
Why don't we bring him inside?
And you just get to see here now how Ellie's starting to become more secretive.
Well, also, it's like
Guarded.
the way they're standing and everything. It's like Ellie's kind of alone now. Like now, it's like Joel is with Tommy, and
There's no one familiar with Ellie.
It's quite the crew you got here. Yeah, they're good men. This place gives them a second
the
chance.
theme of redemption.
Give us all a second chance. Why'd you leave Boston?
He went through this so many times. And each one of them I thought was great in its own little version. It was just kind of like trying to pick the right one. But this is where you get to see.
Well, Joel's putting up a front here. I mean, he's trying to.
He's pitching his little
Yeah.
brother. And it's so interesting to see them slip how they're two different men, but they instantly go back into those roles that they were before.
And just by the beat here, you get hints of what happened in those 20 years.
Right.
How dark things went.
Like they're playing nice.
Right, they were happy to see each other, but now it's like,
It's
oh,
right
right,
underneath the
you
surface.
haven't changed.
And that's, I mean, that's so true to life. Like, especially with brothers, you go back to that. I push these buttons and you do this.
This isn't for me, Tommy. This is for your damn cause. My cause is my family.
And I loved, I mean, what Jeffrey was doing posture-wise, putting Joel on the offensive.
And now he's just like insulting everybody here and insulting his wife.
Tommy, I need this.
Again, just Joel just expects. I tell my little brother to do something, he needs to do it.
Right.
Which is totally based on my brother.
This is how you gonna repay me, huh? Repay you? For all those goddamn years I took care of us. Took care? That's what you call it? I got nothing but nightmares from those years. You survived because of me. It wasn't worth it.
Tommy here, I mean, Tommy and Maria show that even in this world is horrible. You could find peace in it.
Right.
You could build a community. You don't have to resort to these things that Joel has.
That line was a great thing that Jeffrey improv'd on. Put your hands on me again. It's a good Southern phrase.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Joel. Oh man, they were coming in from every direction. And Maria was like, "We gotta run."
That's where you see Tommy. Tommy realizes for the first time that Joel really cares for this girl. This isn't just a job. And that's where he has that change, and he's like, "Oh crap, this is why he's asking me to do this."
Absolutely not. You tell him to go find somebody else.
And again, it's just such a real moment between a married couple. It's like honor and you know, doing something for selfishness and everything else that doesn't play in this world anymore. Those are archaic ideals. I don't want you to go out there because you're going to get killed, and we don't owe him anything. Because I'm sure all she knows is the 20-year-old Joel, 20-year-old version of Joel. Why would you risk your life for that guy? You hate him, essentially.
One fuck up and then I turn into one of those widows, okay?
And for Ellie, it's important to show that she could just read Joel. She has this bullshit detector that, just by the way he's answering her questions, she understands exactly what he asked Tommy to do.
Love this moment. Here we go.
If anything at all happens to him, it's on you.
The posture and everything. He knows he's in the wrong. He knows he can't ask Tommy to do this.
Yeah.
She's thankful.
Yeah, I know.
I'll take that girl of yours to the Fireflies. You don't have to worry about it.
He really cares for you.
There's so much more behind it, though, than just care. It's Tommy showing that he's the bigger man, that he's the better man. That he's allowing his brother to be shallow and selfish.
I mean, I think he knows what his brother's been through. He knows why he can't go through that again.
Which way? Come on.
This is probably my favorite scene.
What a long day this was.
Boys, movies. Deciding which.
I honestly think this is one of the best scenes that you wrote, Neil.
Bizarre.
Get up.
Because it says so much about this world, and especially Ellie, where she's at, and realizing how different and how much of a chasm there is between this world and that.
I agree.
Goddamn stupid.
Well, I guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want?
I think I really like about this scene is that they're both kind of, I guess, being selfish in a way, and yet it's coming from a place because they really care about each other. Like, they don't understand that they both have been through horrible things, and they each think what they've been through has been worse.
I love that she calls him out on that. What are you so afraid of?
How many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
Not her, you know.
What?
And it's like the stakes are high, and it's like, okay, well, then I'm gonna drop this bomb. Not her. It's like, how many years has it probably been for Joel since he even, like,
Don't bring
thought
up
about
that
it,
name.
mentioned it?
I think Joel's thought of that name every day, but I don't think he's heard it said. That shove that you gave, that was nowhere in the script.
I think that came out of frustration, definitely, because when we had come back and we couldn't find it, and I wasn't necessarily frustrated with you, I was frustrated with us in the scene. And I was like, oh, fuck.
It's so cold of Joel to do this, and I've had people on the team ask me to remove this part, that he's being too cold, and I'm like, no, it's like, because she's being so vulnerable and he's having these feelings, he's trying to shut it down. That's why he's being so cold. It was so important for me to keep that in there.
When he says, "You're not my daughter," it's almost an insult.
And it's kind of the opposite of what he's feeling.
This scene was such a great opportunity to show even just like all these mini arcs with characters. You know, we don't have a lot of time, and we're not gonna. We can only tell Joel and Ellie's story. We can't go into such detail with Bill and Tommy and Tess and Marlene. But you get this great resolution between these brothers because you get the full arc of it in just a short amount of time.
It's like the way I approached it is the seed has been planted. Like when she says, I'll just be more scared. That Joel just needs time. And in time, he will change his mind. Because he doesn't want any, deep down, he doesn't want anything that will hurt Ellie or. So over there, the idea is just this little horse riding montages. That change is brewing. And Gustavo's music doesn't hurt.
What's so great about how this plays out is there's really nothing happening but just this passage of time.
That used to be our level that you played through. And just during production cuts, we changed it. So it actually worked out better. It just became this idyllic idea that you never fully reach. You just see it from the outside.
Where is this lab of theirs? It's all the way out, University of Eastern Colorado.
Pointing out this moment that there was probably a time when these two used to watch college football together, you know, and calling out, he's like, hey, go Bighorns, you know, for our college that we made up. I want one of their t-shirts so bad, University East Colorado, because Colorado is such a big state.
I don't want it coming out.
Sorry for stealing your horse.
Come back to town, let's discuss it at least. My mind's all made up.
University, Eastern Colorado. How do I find this lab?
It's in the science building. Looks like a giant mirror, you can't miss it.
And the idea of offering Joel a place of refuge, a place of redemption.
Well, and originally we had some, I think there was a line that I threw in there or something. It was like maybe someday or something. It was just too on the nose. We ended up saying we don't need that. You know, this needs to be
the look is enough.
Well, and the offer to me is enough.
Mm-hmm. About to hear Steve Bloom.
Lovely Steve. Silk-throated Steve Bloom.
Looking for the fireflies. They've all left.
Yeah, no shit.
Dead. Or I will be soon.
What a macabre scene, though. I love that Ellie's just kind of thumbing through things.
She's pretty frustrated with not having found the fireflies, not knowing where to go.
Man, I love Steve Bloom's voice. He makes me want to clear my throat.
Trying to save the world.
It's mean.
Good luck with that.
Do you know where that is?
I know the city.
Is it far?
Again, this is where we really start kind of getting a sense of how Joel and Ellie are just chasing their tail. It is, chasing a phantom.
Oh.
For me, is what I wanted from this is not to overplay it, not to like have Ellie cry or scream or.
Shit. Joel. Oh.
There's probably a lot of panic that happened between this moment and the next.
Well, and what a great line too. You got to tell me what to do. When almost the entire game she said, "Don't tell me what to do."
And here is where we've been lying to everybody when we've been saying you don't play as Ellie.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ask point blank. Do you play as Ellie?
No.
Nope.
I know.
In this moment, a lot of this project and the story has been constructed around this moment, which is where the roles flip. Where now it's Ellie that has to protect Joel and essentially bring him back to life.
Bye-bye, Bunny.
It's a pretty cool reveal too. The pan up.
And
there's Ellie as the hunter.
What we wanted here is also is like, we don't know exactly what happened to Joel, what's the state, how much time has passed.
Poor buddy.
But the way that she's doing that, you can see that she's been doing this for a while.
You'll just start.
Remember how tired your arms got holding that bow stretched?
That bow, it was so heavy. And I remember that I was shaking and I was like, hey guys, this is really heavy.
There's David. Nolan North.
Nolan North, ladies and gentlemen.
Ruben Langdon is James.
Ruben Langdon, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry.
Remember, like, I showed Nolan the part of the game early on, and he's like, oh, you gotta get me a part somewhere in there. I'm like, okay, I got something for you.
I got a role for you. But I will say this, because I mean, I was on set just for a brief part of this, but that's when I mean, I've always been a fan of Nolan's work, but that's when I was truly awed by him at how he crafted this character. He took what you had and just really brought it to life.
I told him the most important part is don't play a bad guy.
Yeah.
This guy's charismatic. We have to believe that people will follow this guy.
And that Ellie could trust him.
Yeah.
Buddy boy can go get it. He comes back with what I need. The deer is all yours. Anyone else shows up.
You put one right between my eyes.
That's right.
It just shows what versatility Nolan really has.
Yeah, that voice, I mean,
It's so comforting.
it is very comforting, but it's interesting now that I'm hearing it, knowing what we went through. I get, it's a little unsettling now, hearing it. I'm like, ugh.
Back up.
It's a weird gameplay thing, but we went through a version where, like, okay, she can only carry one long gun at a time, so we have to put the bow on the ground. And they're like, no, it's going to be 2 guns. Okay, well, let's put the bow back on her backpack. No, it's she can carry 2. And we removed the scope. They used to have a scope on it. We're like, oh, we don't want Ellie to have the scope.
I remember being so relieved in this scene when we switched the gun out and I got to put the bow down. I was like, ah.
I love how David complies, too. How he just kind of, like, submits to a little girl.
Well, the thing is like, he knows the stories. He knows what happened in the university. And he's trying to figure this kid out. This whole sequence, he's sizing her up.
How early or how late on in the script did you write David?
I mean, it was written not that long before we shot it.
Because remember you
It
like
started out
mentioned,
from
like,
a pretty
cannibal
small,
king.
yeah, it was referred as the Cannibal King. We just knew that Ellie was going to run into the worst of mankind and she would persevere and come out on the other side. But then once like Nolan came in and started like putting David together, it was like it became a lot more interesting to make him this really charismatic guy that is just infatuated with Ellie. Like now when things get real, you see who kind of glimpses of who he really is.
Because there is that moment in that other scene where he makes it seem like, okay, you're in control, but she never was.
Yeah.
Well, you handled yourself pretty nice back there.
What's cool about David and the conversation I had with Nolan about him is that he's trying to win Ellie over by being honest with her. And here's the part where he's like, I feel like she's ready. I'm going to kind of reveal myself. And I think like I could still get her to come around.
Now, see, I believe everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
The other interesting thing is thematically, that's everything happens for a reason is the same thing that Marlene really believes. That everything happens like it's something she repeats to Joel at the end. But you're kind of seeing how all these characters are just, how much they're willing to go for what they believe in.
When you talked about like being surprised by your own writing, was that a moment like that, or was that something that you had intentionally done to where those characters were going to?
No, I think it's just something you think about, and there's a theme that just kind of sticks around in the project, and then characters end up talking about that stuff because you're thinking about it all the time. Again, another one of those moments where you think Ellie's got control.
Don't get upset. It's not your fault.
Yeah, and then James there.
You're just a kid.
I love that.
James Northern got it. No way, David. I'm not gonna let her go.
It was such a small role, but I really like what Ruben added there. And that the dynamics between James and David. There's conflict between these two characters, but there's still respect, and he's still listening to David, even though he's questioning his leadership right there.
Part of me, the way I read that was every time James looked at David, it was like, who the fuck are you right now? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, he was putting on a show and he saw it.
Oh, thanks.
To me, it's interesting how David almost treats Ellie like quarry. Like, you know, you're a sport.
Yeah.
Again, Ellie having this kind of bullshit detector, you see her scared here because I think she realizes there's something really wrong with these guys. I don't know what. I just need to get away.
So interesting from watching this, though, I would completely believe David. I'd follow the guy. Crazy.
It's because you're a cannibal. This little moment, this breath before going to see what's downstairs. Again, for players, it would have been like a while now since they've seen Joel.
Joel?
Once again, Joel's asleep.
I only managed to get a little bit of food.
Love how these roles have switched, too. Where now it's, you know, the protected taking care of the protector.
It used to be open, and then we're like, oh, we should probably stitch that up.
It was also on the other side. We had to come back and reshoot it, too. Oh, continuity.
Actually, this one, I remember we shot this one again because this is going Naughty Dog method. Everybody can, like, say the 2 cents. Amy Puckett, one of our coordinators, said, where's Ellie's backpack? And we shot it without thinking about Ellie's backpack. And it was like, oh, we should bring it back in and use it as a pillow. It's like such a cool little touch.
We're gonna make it.
Yeah, those shivering things was pretty cool.
The towel thing, right?
Let's see, you did that.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
but
he
it's still
obviously he animated it.
great moment of them falling asleep next to each other, too. Again, her watching over him. To me, you really get a sense of the oppressiveness of the world with all the introduction with all of these different kinds of enemies. It's like you feel like you're fighting this multi-front battle. It's not just these are the bad guys, and it's so clear.
Yeah, and just how much Ellie's now willing to put herself on the line to just get them away from Joel.
Wakey, wakey.
It's interesting how much audio has made all of this way creepier. We were watching it without audio.
It's like the Foley of what he's cutting up and back and stuff. Yeah. Ugh.
Time to eat.
And that's the first time you actually see what it is that you've heard them refer to it.
No, this is the first time you just see it, and it's again, I really wanted to downplay the whole cannibalism thing. It's just something they have to do.
Super.
He comes to bring her a tray of food.
This was so cool to watch when you guys were doing the scene. It's just like this battle of the wills where he's just trying to like get in her head, and she will not let him. She won't give in.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite scenes to shoot because there's just so much there. I mean, the cannibalism and then him being all like rapey and molesty. Like, I don't know. I'm a fan of the dark stuff, which you know. So when I read it, I was like, yes. Which makes me sound like an awful person, which I am. So.
I don't know what that says about me that I wrote this.
I know. I remember that night that I went home, I was just in a funky mood.
It was like it was a cooler thing to read about it than actually having to go in there. It was really hard to do.
Yeah.
See, again, I see David being this very gracious person.
I mean, everything he's saying is kind of true. It's like, you kill to survive, we kill to survive. It's just what you do in this world. But again, Ellie just is feeling there's something else here.
I still don't look at David as a bad guy at this point.
Yeah. Well, that's what too is like you were talking to me before we got this whole David thing, and it's like, you want to work with Noel North? I want to do a scene with Noel North. I want to do I was like, and I'm like, oh, we cast Noel North. Like, great. I'm like, but you don't act with him at all.
Jeez.
Yeah, I feel super lucky I got to work with him.
He's the king.
He's so fun to work with.
I mean, he really owned it. He threw himself into it. Like.
Okay, guys, this is gonna be the end of today's video. We have been recording for an hour and 33 minutes. We've just been doing these. I don't know how just this, took an hour and 33 minutes. If you want part 2 of this, like, if you don't want part 2 of this, what? No. Wait, since I'm like new, 2 likes, and we'll do part 2. All right. Now, without further ado, this will be the end of this, and I will see you guys in the next.